I'm going to give you a little bit of my background that's not business, not franchising, because so many of you know me from business and franchise, and you've been on so many of these Zooms with me. This is going to probably be very different. I'm going to let you know just a little bit of my background, and then why I went, what I experienced. And when I say what I experienced, I want you to kind of understand it, how I went and what I saw, and it kind of like going on the journey with me. Real practical too. I just kind of want to show you what it was really like and what I saw. And then short-term impact that I think I had, and long-term impact that I think I may be having and hope to have. And that will last about 30 minutes. And then I will bring on two individuals who have an organization that's actually going in and rescuing orphans, orphanages, and whatnot. So that's going to be part 2 in 25 minutes. But again, if you want to have your cameras on, it's always nice to see faces. But if you're like me on these Zooms, I'm not always in a place to have my camera on. So completely up to you. All right. So my background before I got involved with all this franchise stuff was I was in college and the NATO was bombing Kosovo, which was resulting in mostly women and children from Kosovo going over into Albania. And I found myself going over there with a group called Mercy Works, and a lady named Debbie, who's a dear friend of mine, led the team. So it was my sister and I. We went to Albania. 2 kids from South Dakota that had no business going over there, but it was something that changed my life. And I went there, and mom and dad were so, I look back, I'm like, I don't know if I could let my kids go do that, but they let me. They knew it was right. And it was life-changing, to say the least. So I was there, I think I was there for a month or 2 on the border, seeing refugees crossing in wheelbarrows and everything that you would think of a refugee that has been through incredibly difficult circumstances to get there, to find safety, and to arrive someplace that is out of their comfort zone, to say the least, going and living in these massive tent cities and having people help them. That's exactly what it was. So anything that you could imagine like that, that's what it was. We flew in to the main airport in Tirana. The next day we got onto helicopters, military helicopters that took us on like a 45-minute flight to the main border in the mountains in Albania. And I loved every minute of it. Absolutely every minute of it. So when then I went to finished up college, and then eventually got into franchising. And that was one of the stories that I look back that was life-changing for me. And then I saw what was going on in Ukraine. It was Sunday. And I called up Debbie. I said, what are you doing? And she says, we're thinking about sending some folks there to kind of see what's going on. And I thought it was still early on, but I thought, man, there's people there helping. There's all kinds of stuff going on. And I want you to know too, it's so early on there. My first day there were very few Americans in the hotel. And when I left, there was a lot more Americans, but like we were there early on. It wasn't like real organized. There wasn't a lot of these agencies that are there now today weren't there a week ago. So it was really early on. I didn't expect to be there that early on, but I went because I wanted to. Like I wanted to go help, and I didn't know how to help. I didn't know what it was going to be like, but I said, Debbie, what do you need there? Like what skill sets do you need? She said, we want someone with connections that can kind of assess the situation. And that's when I put out the Facebook post, and
yes,
and I went.
yes.
And Caleb, can you mute people too as they come in? So I went, and I went and put up a Facebook post that said, does anybody have any connections out there? Does anybody know anything? And I was overwhelmed with people that were like, Erik, here's a connection, there's a connection. So I knew that I could help. So I land, and we had 2 meetings set up 3 meetings set up in the first 2 days before we went to the border. So kind of got there, assessed everything, learned from people that knew from experience more than I would have been able to do just by trying to go to a border right away. So I learned, and there was somebody else that was there before me that kind of reinforced, like, go do some meetings, because they said, the borders are kind of chaotic right now. And so we had a couple meetings and really good introductions. We went to one camp on the second day. It's a normal, like, think of it as a 300 person kids camp that they do soccer and just like sports stuff. And so we went there and met with this group that is a for-profit business, and they had a couple hundred refugees there. So that was my first real introduction to seeing refugees. And we were in a meeting with them late at night. This was late at night, everyone. And there was one guy, he was just he had Post-it notes everywhere. I got a picture of it. I just remember that. He had pictures everywhere, or Post-it notes everywhere of, like, I got this person, this refugee, I'm going to connect them over here, and I'm going to arrange transportation for them to get there. So one guy, not used to doing that, was like, air traffic control for getting refugees from point A to point B once they landed in this children's camp that was transformed into a refugee camp. And then they had just bought a van, or just arranged to buy a van is a better way to say it. They just arranged to buy a van for like $5,000 that was going into Ukraine to do a couple things. The group that was going to in Ukraine would take supplies from a safe city and take it into an unsafe place like Kiev or Chernobyl, and take supplies in and take refugees out. And that's the purpose of that van. My buddy Glenn, who's on here, said, I want to buy that van. And I'm like, no, I want to buy that van. So we were fighting who bought that van. Not really, but we ended up splitting this van, and we knew the next day that thing that we just saw, we took pictures of it, was going straight into Ukraine to do what I just said. And I get emotional because it's still so fresh, knowing you guys sent money to me. I put that money to and bought a van. That van is physically in Ukraine within days, taking supplies to people that need it. And just that supply chain is fascinating. And to see money put to work for things like that is amazing. So they had about 200 refugees. They're waiting for more refugees to come. They let us know it's difficult to find. They would take people with big families, foster families with 10 kids. They would take them because they're not easy to find families for. So this is the type of group that was taking in refugees. So now I knew where refugees would go when they would go to a facility like Pro-M. So what we did is we then visited three different borders, one in Helm, CHELM, Helm. They have, that's the main city, and there's 2 borders that intersect, or that go into Helm. And it was there is where I was there, and all of a sudden we see a bunch of cop cars and sirens and people dressed in like blue outfits. I'm like, something important is going on. And I knew that because I was in Albania when the UN Secretary General flew in on the helicopter and had the same type of thing happen. And he gave a press conference there. And I'm like, okay, somebody important's coming in. I'm going to follow and be in front of all the press. And I'm like, here's my chance to ask her a question. And so she got interviewed. I had a chance to ask her a question, and I chickened out. Like I just legit chickened out. And then I thought, how can I get her to want to talk to me? So I just replaying in my mind over and over as she was finishing up an interview with cameras all around. And she got done with the interview. And that's when I said, hey, I was in Norway when 9/11 happened. And that caught her attention. And I was in Oslo. And she said, and I said, and the Norwegians were so kind to me. And she turned around, grabbed my hands, and and just said, "Who are you and where are you from?" And I said, and I got this, I think I put this online. I said, "I'm just an entrepreneur from America." And then I said, "What kindness have you seen on the world stage, or what kindness have you seen demonstrated?" And she immediately said, "The Polish people showed kindness, and the Polish people have risen to the occasion." And that is a theme that was evident everywhere that we went. Like, we as Americans that were there, I would always make it, I would try to always make it a point to acknowledge that to the locals that were there and had, whether they were just a random family that opened up their homes, or they're part of the larger organizations that is organizing a lot of stuff. I always made a point, or tried to make it a point, to acknowledge that, because it was absolutely true. So that's something, just, we sit here in America, see what's going on there. Just know the Polish people have responded in the most amazing way. So I want to leave you with that. Like, they have met the needs in the most amazing way, from the government officials all the way to the poor, citizen that doesn't have much money, but is giving up a room or two in their house. That's what's happening there. So I got to spend some, got to ask her a question, and I thought that was neat. And then, what that border looked like, there was just it looked like just a like a swap meet, like just a roadside, sales thing that's happening. But what was happening, people were giving out food, giving out blankets, giving out soup, giving out, like toothbrushes, and anything and everything that was needed. They were giving it out there. And some of it was organizations, some of it was just people that had no, they just wanted to go there and serve. I met an American there, because when you're in a different country, out of your comfort zone, you notice when people speak English. Like, I'm always aware of when somebody speaks English. And so there's times when you want to speak English, and sometimes when you don't. Sometimes when you want to get noticed, and sometimes when you don't. So I noticed he spoke English, and I went up to him and like, "Where are you from?" And that's our common denominator is, American. And he said he lives in DC. He has a company that he might even be on this call, as far as I know, but he has a company that does like logistics, or like something for all the campaigns. And he says the business kind of runs on its own, and he doesn't need to be there day to day. And he was in Poland as an exchange student years ago, and so he wanted to come back, and that's exactly what he did. He was up there just serving food, and and just having a blast. I said, "When you going home?" He's like, I don't know. So then we went to another border, and that's when I saw a lady with 8 puppies at this border. She had 8 puppies, and so what do? I know my family loves puppies. My girls do. And so I get out FaceTime, and I'm just FaceTiming with my daughters. They're experiencing, and this is the point I want to make. Like, my daughters and my wife are experiencing this with me real time. Like, I'm holding up the phone on the border with someone that had just crossed who knows how long, and she had 8 puppies with her, filming it. She's engaging with my daughters over something that they all love, which is puppies. And I thought, just how amazing is that this experience that I'm having, I get to share with my daughters. And this lady gets to experience somebody that loves puppies, and just, she knew it was important for me to have my daughters on that little FaceTime. And she had a big smile on her face. And this is another thing that I saw. Sometimes people were there just to put smiles on people's faces. And that was a good thing. Sometimes people were dressed up as a pirate. Sometimes they had, like this little animal outfits on, and they were serving. They just wanted to put smiles on kids' faces. So you think about the things that were being done there. A lot of it, some of it was just to put a smile on a kid's face as soon as they crossed the border. Some of it was give them a chunk of chocolate, like a nice chocolate bar. So as soon as they crossed, there was a group that was, they weren't with anybody. They just had hundreds of chocolate bars. And as soon as somebody crossed, they would give them a chocolate bar, and the kids loved it. And I think as I look back, I could see how the parents enjoyed seeing their kids smile, probably for the first time in a long time. So when I think about people helping, there's all kinds of ways that people helped. Um, and so, but there were some real needs there. And there are people that were doing some of the things that put smiles on people's faces, and there are people that were taking care of real needs. Think about it this way. Us as Americans, it's hard to imagine that that would even happen. Guys, it was hard for the Ukrainians to imagine that this would happen. They knew Russia, but they didn't think this would really happen. I would talk to some of them that I had relationships with and had longer conversations with, and they said our life was so good. Like, I didn't want to go to America. I didn't want to go anywhere. I had a farm, I had a house, I had my family, I had everything that I wanted, and life was really good. And think about this too. I want you to think about this. Their lives were normal. Like, as your life is normal, as my life is normal, their life was normal. They had elderly parents they were taking care of. They had family members in wheelchairs. They had family members that with Down syndrome. They had family members that were handicapped. They had babies being born. They had puppies being born. They had cancer. They had family members with cancer. These are the things that you just don't think about when life gets interrupted like that. Bombs start flying and people are, running for their lives. They're still dealing with the normal issues that they were before war. And so, there's just a lot of complexity once you start to peel back the onion and you start to see the different situations that people were in there. So that's border one that we went to, actually two borders that all went into Helm. The next one that we went to was Medica. This is the one where most of the trains come in from Lviv. So if you think about it this way, Lviv is the largest big city in the safe zone going into Poland. So think about in a war-torn country, war's happening, there's hot zones, meaning there's just a lot of shelling and bombs and different things happening. They need to get to safety. First place of safety is Lviv, and that is still a safe place. And that is, an hour and a half, I think, from the border to Poland. And the main border that they would cross in, there's two borders. One of them is smaller, and the larger one is Medica. And the name of that city starts with P. It's like Pysu, Przemysl, something like that. I'm still horrible with all of these names, but it's the Medica border. And this is where most of them were crossing in. And we went there, and I got out of the van, and I'm like, man, it's cold out. So I put on like my long underwear, my ski on, that I wear for skiing. I put on my pants. I need another layer. So I put on another, like a sweatshirt. Then I put on my big down Patagonia jacket. And then I put on my layer over that I would use for skiing. And I went to my suitcase, dug out my big gloves because I had some smaller gloves. I'm like, it's going to get cold. And I was still cold with all of that stuff on. And yet people were crossing with little babies or in a wheelchair that didn't have nearly what I had. And they'd been traveling for a long time, standing in lines for a long time, trying to get over. There's nothing easy about this journey, even if they were to get dropped off at the border in a car. Many times they would have a couple days journey to eventually get to the border. And they would, sometimes they would sleep at different friends' houses, but I talked to so many people that they slept in their car. They had like days journey and they would sleep in their car. So this is what happened. This is the day that I was there. People are saying, wow, the buses, where are the buses today? And I guess the buses normally come at a more predictable, faster pace. The buses were running slower this time. And there was about a 2 to 3 hour line that they would, and maybe some of you saw my Facebook video, but when I showed that line, they had crossed the border. Now they were in this line for 2 to 3 hours, just waiting for a bus that would take them to the train station, which is about 2 hours away. So they were going to a train station. From that train station, they would get a train somewhere. Most likely it was probably a 6 hour journey on a train to Warsaw, and there they would get on another train someplace, or they'd get picked up, or they would go into the stadium, which is the overflow of anybody that doesn't have anywhere to go. They would go to the stadium, which is really nice. They were doing such a great job of that. But think about this, in the cold for 2 to 3 hours, there was fires around. There's some people that their job, when I say their job, people were just doing whatever needed to be done. They were taking wood, putting it in there. There were people that were just giving out soup, giving out pizza, giving out blankets, giving out dog crates, giving out dog food. There was medical tents for the people that needed medical attention. There was consistently ambulances going out of there. And that was a border. It was chaos, but it was organized chaos. And people were getting helped, and there's plenty of people helping others. And that's what I saw. Like, if you were to go there, you would walk in there and you would find a job right away. And like my buddy Glenn, who's on this call, he found a shopping cart, and all he did all day long was go from where people first crossed and all the way down to get them into the bus line or into the car. And here's a really interesting, not interesting, just an amazing little story. So Glenn and I tried to we tried to walk in to as far as we could go to the border just to kind of see what was going on. We got to the point where you're supposed to give your passports, and we're like, that's probably about as far as we need to go, because we don't really need to go into Ukraine just to say that we went into Ukraine. So and we don't want to stop anything. We don't need to be Americans just trying to do something just to see something. Was never the purpose. And so we're like, okay, now we see what's going on up here. Let's go out. So we were walking out, and as to my left, there was a group coming right across the border, and they had these boxes and they had these bags, and there was a shopping cart right there. We put the boxes into the shopping cart and some of the bags and started carrying them, and we carried them all the way to the bus line, and had little, little conversations along the way, and as much as you can have. And then I turned around and I started doing other things, and Glenn all day long going back and forth on the border doing just that. And I'll say this, when you see people carrying a bag, that bag weighs probably 5 times as much as you think that bag would weigh, because they pack that full of whatever they can. So those bags were not light little shopping bags. Like, I could not believe how heavy some of these things were. So a couple hours later, I'm doing a Facebook Live, kind of walking them through. Here's where people come in on the border, blah, blah, blah. It's about a 5-minute Facebook Live. I walk out to the, and Caleb, when our guests are on, why don't you just message me or text me or do something to get my attention? So I walk out, and there is, I get ready to end Facebook Live. I'm like, and there's where people are getting on the bus to go to who knows where. And then this little kid comes like running up to me, and then like wants to like hug me or grab me or talk to me. And so I bend down, and I'm just, doing what any dad would do to a little kid that runs up to you in a situation like that. And then they say bye, and then he just kept doing it and doing it. And I realized that was the same little kid that I'd helped 2 hours earlier in the sea of people. That same little kid, that same family that Glenn and I helped, we were the first person that they saw when they crossed the border, and they were that little boy and their family. I was the last person that they saw when they got into their bus and went. And her mom was so happy that, that her little son was engaged that way. So I'll also, I want to talk just a little bit about short-term and long-term impact, and then our guests will probably be on. I want to give them all the time that we can. Yeah, let's just talk about short-term and long-term impact. Short-term impact, and there's some long-term in here too. When I posted that, I had friends that said, I want to go. Numerous friends, probably a dozen friends said, I want to go. And one of my friends is actually going now. Like, he's on this call in a orange hat. I think it's orange. Mark Kovac. He's like, he is going. He's got his ticket and he's going. Jason, he put a Facebook post out and he said, I was inspired by Eric Van Horn, actually just taking action and doing something about it. I'm going with a team of 3 of them, and they're going to Moldova, which is right next to Romania. And it's a hot area. It's a dangerous area right now. Where I wasn't dangerous. It wasn't dangerous. Moldova is not, it's definitely more dangerous now. So he's going there, and he said he was inspired by me. I'm like, holy cow, I just went. And what do you mean you were inspired by me? He raised like $1 million plus in funds to be able to distribute there. Mark's going, and it's because I went. Like and the thing that I see about that is like the impact is beyond me. Like I just went. I inspired 2 other people to go. They're inspiring other people to do something. And this is not about going and doing stuff. Everyone, I went 25 years ago to Albania. I just did this. I've had impact in lots of different ways, but I've had other people, you guys all gave me $20,000 to give out when I was there. None of that went to me. It all went to places that needed it. It all went to kids for clothes and blankets and you name it. It all went to that type of thing. The other, I'm just waiting. If Caleb, if they come on, I want you just to interrupt me on here. Don't type anything, just come in and say, Eric, it's time. So people want a place to give. They don't know where to give. And I can't tell you how many times people have come to me and said, Eric, where do I give? And I don't know. And I know more now after going where to give, but it's not easy to find a place to give. And I also learned some of the bad things about some of these big charities when I was there too. I won't get into that now, but it's really important to find places to give money to that are actually using it to fund things that are having real-time impact. So that's something else that I learned that I want to help facilitate, bring those types of organizations to my world. So people that want to give can give and it have immediate impact, both short-term and long-term. Thinking more long-term relationships, you're going to see the folks that are coming on today. I have numerous relationships like this that will deepen. So my goal long-term is to have deeper relationships with people on the ground doing some of these things. Because I know another thing is I built relationships from people in the States, strangers that I didn't know before I went, but got connected with me because of my posts. And they're like, here's one of them. I had an orphan. Someone put me in touch with somebody else that lives in California. She adopted a baby a long time ago, and now it's her son, and he's older, I believe in the teens. And she's like, I got a call from basically the orphanage that she adopted the son from, and they evacuated. They're out, but the director of this orphanage is still in, I believe it's in Kiev, is still in Kiev, still in the war zone. And she does not want to leave because there's too many other orphans that she wants to take care of. She's like, I need to take care of them. Daughter, you go and you take these 60 orphans on this trek out of here into in through all the difficult situations and get into Poland. And I have no idea how to help you, but go do it. And she did it. And she's scared out of her mind. She's scared out of her mind. And I was able to go deliver clothes for 60 of those orphans. And I was able to actually go in and see and communicate with her, knowing that she's not letting anybody else in because it's dangerous to let strangers in and let strangers around orphans like that. But I was able to build the bridge through my interpreter that allowed me to do that. And I want to leave it with this as I introduce Jeremy and Brittany. Some of the things that I didn't realize that are so important now, and it's like, duh, why didn't I realize it? Is you've got to do things the right way. You've got to do things the right way, because there are people out there, as much as there are people wanting to do good in situations like this, there are people that are wanting to do evil. And there are people that I saw that were probably traffickers. And that is happening. And it's just as real that that's happening as it's just as real as Jeremy and his wife and his group are rescuing orphans in the hot areas. And that is really important. And so there are people that are trying to do good and are doing good with some of these orphans, but if it's not done with excellence and it's not done the right way, it can make a bad situation even worse. So with that said, I want to introduce Jeremy and his wife, Brittany. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and Brittany and putting all this together. It's amazing.
So we just, and I'm recording this, and this is going to go out to a lot of people, and I want to bring awareness to this. And so I just kind of shared with them my journey of going there, what I saw at these different borders. We've not talked about orphans very much, just at the very end on a family, a group of 60 that made it in without their director and like the director's daughter who's scared out of her mind, not trusting anybody, but is in a really good, safe place. So why don't you share with everyone here a little bit about your backgrounds and what you're doing today?
Yeah, go ahead first, sweetheart.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just grabbing the presentation. So we've got the video, and so it's right here.
Perfect. And Caleb, why don't you make them co-hosts so they can do video and whatnot? And as you're getting that ready, it's 10:30 p.m. there right now.
It is.
What time did you get up this morning?
6. Yeah,
Yeah,
6.
6.
Well,
6. Getting up even earlier tomorrow. Yeah, so we're so grateful to be on here. Thank you. What we have been dedicated fully to being able to serve and do rescue work in areas that desperately need it. We found a niche in the space where we've seen these veterans be able to go in and use their skills and do things that we've seen nobody else be able to do. And so it's been really incredible to be able to partner with other nonprofits, and they'll do, the food, and we'll get it to the villages that need it, and or do the rescue ops or pull people out of rubble, or, the security element is built in. And that's been really amazing. We started in 2017. I actually had a hurricane hit and destroy my home and my entire community. And I got to witness how a place can become essentially a third world country overnight. That was more than a really wonderful place. And I've seen the desperation and the horrible things that can happen so quickly. And then we've been responding, we've been taking the best practices of what we've learned from disaster to disaster and bringing hope on how you can be even stronger on the other side, how this is not your last day, how to rebuild even faster. And we want to share that hope, because a lot of times a disaster can happen, but the hopelessness kills more people than the disaster does itself. And so we've been doing this for, I guess, now 5 years. And I'll let Jeremy talk about how he's gotten involved. But our goal is to create, you've got to do that emergency section of the response, but then our goal is to create hand up, not hand out programs for people to know that they can pull themselves out. They need a hand up though. You got knocked down, and we want you to be able to have the resources you need to rebuild your life, but also that hope.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's kind of the background behind Aero Recovery itself. And I'm the chief of operations for it and the devoted husband as well. But so my background is I spent 20 years in the U.S. Army. 10 years of that was in the Special Forces out of 5th Special Forces Group before Campbell, Kentucky. I retired out of there in last year, actually. But since about mid 2020, when I got back from my last trip in Syria, I've been at the helm Aero Recovery. And what we do is we repurpose military veterans, primarily special operations forces, to go in these austere environments and for us to use our unique skill sets to serve. We pray about where we're going to go before we go there, and before Brittany and I make the decision before we go different places. Obviously, this situation in Ukraine, it's something that me personally, for the horrors and atrocities I've seen in war, and just seeing the innocent civilian populations and the fact that they don't ask for any of this, and they're the ones that end up suffering from all of it. And I just really dislike seeing that. And there's just something that we're trying to do our best to stop that. And that's exactly what's going on in Ukraine. We also spend a great deal of amount of time at Ariel and with some of our other partners doing anti-human trafficking. So when we first came into Ukraine, we do it in a responsible manner where we go in the first 48 to 72 hours. We spend our time kind of assessing what's going on. And as a Green Beret, that's what we do before we jump into anything, is we create relationships and an understanding, and we reach out and talk to the people and ask them, how can we best serve you? And very quickly, we got in tight with the Ministry of Defense in Lviv in Western Ukraine, with the Ministry of Social Affairs, which is essentially their child protective services. And we asked them, what is your biggest concern right now? We know your children are in danger, the orphanages are in danger. And they told us at that juncture, one of their biggest concerns is the fact that they don't have accountability of 10,000 of their orphans. And what happened was, there was all these groups that come in, and they're moving quick, fast, and in a hurry. And most of them are, have really good intentions and really good hearts. And they start getting these kids from the east, and they start moving them across international borders. And they do this without the coordination of Ukraine government. And these kids get passed through a very porous border initially, because it's, everyone's scared. There's a war going on. They don't know how quickly Russia's going to tear through Ukraine. And it is a very scary feeling, and a very helpless feeling that happens there. But we recognize that we have to be responsible about this, and it is safe in the western part of Ukraine right now. And let's move these children from these dangerous areas, because yes, of course, we need to get them out of there. It's terrible conditions. No human being should see what's going on, let alone the most innocent of people that are on this earth, which are our children. So yes, we do need to get them out of those dangerous areas, but let's move them to the west. Once we get them there, let's take the time to responsibly move them across borders, if that's what we're going to do, and if that's what Ukraine wants us to do. So that's the approach that we've taken since we've got in country. We first sent our first advanced team across on the 28th, which was 4 days after the invasion started. And we conducted our first rescue operation on the 3rd of March, east of Kyiv. And to date, we had 266, and we just about 45 minutes ago got another 98. And then we have another 66, I believe, that are en route as well.
We got 33 of them already.
And yeah, 33 of them already. So it's through these relationships, these logistical networks we set up, and the partnership with Ukraine itself, that we've been able to do this. And I mean, I'm so proud of the team that's out there, and I'm proud of the way that we did it, because I caught what you were saying, Eric, as we jumped on there. And from my experience, if you think you're looking at a trafficker and you think there's trafficking going on, it is absolutely going on. They're very sophisticated.
You actually notice.
It's a $5 billion a year industry and growing. And there are more modern day slaves than there was in the entire history of the civil rights movement. Like back in those slave days, there's more modern day now. So it is terrible. It needs to be stopped. And these poor kids are already literally in hell. Let's not let that be a lifetime of hell for them. And that's what we're trying to do.
Traffickers know that they're worth a minimum of $10,000 a pop, minimum, before they sell them for organ harvesting. And so it's really important. They're highly motivated. We see this after every disaster, but especially ones like this that have mass confusion. And so really what we strive to do is save lives primarily, eliminate confusion. We want to maximize support and accelerate the recovery. And again, help people focus on that. So there's a lot of strategy behind what we're doing. And we've got a command center set up there right now with people working 24/7. And so we just really appreciate what you're doing, Erik, because it's, we end up getting into a mission and don't lift our head up.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know that other people do want to help. And it's really wonderful that you are organizing this, because you don't have to be the one conducting the rescue operation to make a really huge life-saving difference. It can be being part of this, donating resources, spreading the word, and making sure this is going to fall off the news eventually, that people will continue suffering, and we're still going to be there, and other organizations will still be there. So just because it's not cool to talk about anymore doesn't mean it's still not creating a lot of pain, and we can do something about it, especially if we come together. So we really appreciate you doing this, because again, we kind of suck at doing this part.
No, 100%. And why don't you get that video ready? And what they just said, this will fall off the news cycle.
Yeah.
This will not be front and center, because it will be something else. When I was talking about some of my long-term, like the long-term benefit from me being there, it is creating relationships like this that are long-term, and having this front and center with my audience, people that follow me, and people in my world of passive investing and franchising. So this doesn't get lost. And there will be other things, and there'll be other places that money is needed, but this is definitely on my heart, and is something that I've seen firsthand, and I want to continue to spotlight, especially with great organizations like this. So are you guys teed up with that video?
Yeah, it's just a little video, guys, and you can see the faces of some of these sweet babies, and it's not anything overproduced. It's just something we put together to say, yeah, there's kids involved. So it's not like made for promotion, but I'm excited to get to show you transparently where money is going to. The reason we want more support is we want to, with the contract we have with the Ukraine government, we're going to stay there until the money runs out, and we're going to keep doing rescue operations. And so,
yeah, we found it to be just doing the calculations, and because right now I'm calculating how long can we stay, and that's where we are with our money, and it breaks down to being about $500 a child for us to rescue and safeguard.
yay. Now, obviously that sounds low, and it's because of the partnerships that we've set up, which is great. Oh no. Hold on.
Take your time.
You are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You are not hopeless. Though you have been broken, your innocence stolen. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest nights. I will rescue you. Oh, I will rescue you.
Did you get cheered up again?
Yeah,
Can't
every
not.
time.
I can't not.
Yeah, but
So put a
It's
link
tough.
in there. Please put a link in there. Part of the purpose for this is people have asked me, where do I donate? I want you, this is a place where I'm going to donate. This is a place that I think is a good place to donate, because money gets used for things like you just saw. And I want to dive into like practically what that looks like.
Here's a QR code. We'll also send out a link. It's aerialrecovery.com. Will take you directly to this Ukraine operation. And right now our top need is the need to buy buses, because we have the right operators. We've got the veterans who are signed up and are either on their way there or currently there, because we have a rotation to keep people fresh, because it's pretty 24/7 once you're over there. So we've got everything. We just need more buses. There's thousands and thousands of kids that need saving. And I know that one of the routes has been a 20-hour drive, right? And
Yeah,
we had a
I
bus
mean,
break down.
Ukraine, it's huge. So in order to do a round trip to go do these rescues, it's the one that I did. It took about 36 hours.
Can we talk about that one? Like, let's talk about what a rescue looks like. Like, when do you get the intel that there's somebody that needs a group that needs rescue, and and then what happens next? I kind of want to walk through this with you too, so people have a full understanding of what it looks like from the time that is you're made aware of a possible orphanage that needs rescued.
Yeah, so it's the requests come in. It's really streamlined now, which is great, because the method that we've been using is not taking kids across borders, is just finding them, vetting and safeguarding, and bringing them to the West. And this method, we actually signed an agreement with the government of Ukraine, which is now the Ministry of Defense, since they're in a state of civil war, or not civil war, since they're a state of war. So we have an agreement with them, which allows us to get quick information actually from the government as to, hey, we are so task saturated that we need your help to move our children. And it's a wonderful charge. It's something I'm very proud of. When we signed the agreement, they literally asked, and this was the words that came out of it, was, please help ensure that our children don't get trafficked. And it was to us, and what we've been trying to do with their recovery, like, that meant everything, because if there's one thing in this world that we could eliminate, Brittany especially, is traffickers and trafficking. It's the most terrible, despicable thing there is in this world.
I can't think of anything worse.
And so to answer your question, the way it works is we'll get a request through our operations center. Someone will say, hey, there's these children, this orphanage needs to be evacuated. It's in a dangerous area. It's about to be swallowed up by Russian troop advances. It's already behind Russian troop lines, whatever that is. So once we do that, we get in contact with a point of contact on the ground, because we have to ensure that the information is correct. And we put in a request in through the Ukrainian government to ask them if it's okay for us to go conduct this operation, which is really fast now, because
these are all fast.
because now we're partners with them. So this is how it used to be, but now it's really fast. So then we'll pull into our multiple intelligence streams, and we'll devise a plan to get out there. We will reach out to partner organizations, or
Can you talk about multiple intelligent streams? What you
yeah.
can?
So
Yeah, are you allowed to talk about that?
Yeah, I can talk kind of I can touch vaguely on
Yeah.
it. I can't say exactly what type of intelligence we get, but what is really cool is this is the second time that I've been involved, and Ariel's been involved in a very dangerous war situation. We did work in Afghanistan and Tajikistan, and even more so here in Ukraine. We are finding there are a lot of private organizations and a lot of contractors that are out there, and they're offering their services to assist and in any way that they can. So there's, even from Elon Musk, like moving his satellite overhead. So
Yeah.
you can use some of those Starlink devices and others that, even the Defense Department, they use private contractors to get a lot of their intelligence. So those
Can you dive a little bit deeper in the private contractors for intelligence and what private contractors may be doing out there, whatever you can? Because I think that's
yeah. So it is the intelligence that we get down there in the picture, especially if you know how to analyze it, which is what we know how to analyze it, is they're doing everything short of analyzing all the information and giving you packets themselves, to where I feel almost like I'm in Syria and I'm getting the same quality intelligence to me to understand the mission and the dangers that are about to happen. This is from everything from knowing where Russian SIM cards are, so I can tell where Russian cell phones are in countries, so I can try to avoid those when I move places, from knowing having secure communication systems that we normally only have overseas, but they're being gifted to us to conduct these operations. The amount of support that has been given by the private sector, not even just from the US, from British, all sorts of different types of streams. It's really is amazing to see. And I'm really happy that it's happening. I can't, I can't believe how well all these private people have come together, and organizations have come together to support all the missions on the ground.
We live by is if it's God's work, then there's no competition. And we've seen in some of these disaster spaces, people are, trying to go after the donor dollars or please their board or just stay as long as the press is there. And there's a lot of wonderful organizations. We're not going to talk bad about anybody, but we're just foundationally motivated different. And if we can work together, we have the same mission. Let's do it. And that's always been our approach. And so it's really been amazing to see it come together in projects like this. Are you able to show them one of those intelligence things or
no?
You just teased us.
I can show one on the slideshow. Yeah, if you go back to there. But this
is live on YouTube, so maybe now.
This will be recorded.
It's unlisted, so it's not public. It's on
Facebook. It doesn't really quite show the capacity, but we're at the point now where we can actually. So this is the type of things that we see here. So if you, can you guys see my cursor?
Yep.
That goes through here. Okay, so just to kind of also answer your question, so all of these are different. These depict different types of I don't know if you have any military people there, but all these symbols represent a different type of military capability, whether it's infantry, armor, intelligence sections, and all of these red ones depict Russian positions. The blue line is the defensive line for Ukraine. And then you have the different Ukrainian defensive support positions and all of that. Now, all this information they don't just broadcast, where their positions and all that stuff are. This is all compiled from private contractors, people that maybe shouldn't even necessarily be giving us this information. And then we can create an operational picture and we really understand what's going on the ground, because you have to understand when I go in Syria and I'm going after some ISIS guys, I have 12 guys in my case, because we work with a 12-man ODA, and we're there with our weapons, and we're there because we signed up, and we're there because we accepted the mission. We going out and rescuing these children, they are inside of bunkers. Yeah, they're being shelled, and it's scary and it's terrible, and you don't want to see it, but we also have to understand that maybe at some point they might be safe to stay inside of the shelters, at least for now, or inside of those bunkers. Because if I'm going to go out there and remove them from there and put them in a bus that has no armor or anything like that and drive them away, and they get, they get blown up or shot because I'm trying to rescue them, that's also something we need to take into consideration. So being able to have up-to-date intelligence, being able to, even if we had the funding, we can even send up a UAV. We have that capability, an unmanned aerial vehicle, so that could scan the route that we're about to go on.
Yeah,
there's all those things are in country. It's just a matter if you can, afford to use them, or if you can get the assets. But we have the trust of the government out there. We have the trust of all these other organizations that are out there based on our reputation, what we've done in the past. But I'm very confident that when we go out and conduct these rescues, that we are doing it in the safest manner, and we are doing it. It's necessary. It's necessary that we do move the children, and we also don't move the children to anywhere that we don't know that who they're being received.
You can give an example of when we did that one rescue with the 35.
Yeah. Yeah. So we recently did a rescue with 35 children, and the situation that they went through was just absolutely terrible. They were inside they're north of Mykolaiv, which is kind of down by Odessa, and that region's getting heavily bombarded. So these poor kids had to go down into a cellar, and they have some caregivers. If you're not familiar with how Ukraine's orphanage system's set up, they're technically in boarding schools, and they kind of go to school throughout the school year, and then during the summer they go to like summer type camps. But they're not the summer camp we would send our kids to. They're the summer camp that has no funding and disease, and it's literally there are organizations set up just to foster these kids because their summer camps are so terrible for them. So they had these groups, and one of them had to abandon their orphanage, and they went into one of these basements, and they were down there for about 4 days getting shelled, listening to, running out of food, and they have their caregivers or their teachers with them. So they were sent in a request, and they said, we need to get out of here. It's really dangerous. So we sent in an extraction team. We got them loaded up on a bus, and we started driving the bus away, and that bus started getting shelled, with exploding right next to it, all sorts of craziness. So we had to turn the bus around and get them back out of the bus and back into the bunker. And we couldn't conduct the rescue. So we waited till it was till we could deem it safe enough to move the children. And unfortunately, in that time, their caregivers that were there, they are going above ground trying to make phone calls, and they're trying to find any supplies they can to feed these poor children, and they move around in vehicles with red crosses on them to try to not be targets. But 3 of their caregivers were gunned down by a Russian machine gun when they're coming back, and all 3 of them were killed. And that was at that point they called us again and said, we don't care, like, you have to come get us, they're going to kill all of us. And so we went back in, and we were able to get them extracted. And it weighs so much, because it's, the first time we went in, it was too dangerous for the kids, and then between that time 3 of their caregivers are killed too. So it's like, it's tough. It's really heavy, but at the end of the day, we were able to get the children out and into safety. But that's just one example. There's just.
But I saw a really sweet video of those 35 kids reading their bedtime stories tonight, and they are happy, and they've got a warm place to sleep, and they're eating. And they're just so grateful that somebody was willing to go into that dangerous situation and get them, even after their 3 teachers were killed. Obviously, that's really the whole thing's really traumatic for the country, but especially for these innocent children. And so we're really grateful we're able to get them out. But I'll have to send you the video. Good luck not crying, guys.
I want the
It's
video.
unbelievably hard, but it's unbelievably rewarding. And we're just excited and grateful for your help, because we need more vans. We need more help. We need to make sure that, we're not going to keep them there forever. We want to make sure they're processed properly, and then we follow the government's direction on the best place for them to go next. And thankfully, people are offering resources, which is wonderful, but you got to make sure they're not traffickers. So we're doing it really smart, and we're trying to do our best to educate everybody else that's trying to do the same kinds of missions, so that we can, again, collectively do great things for this poor country that's just going through so much. Not that they're a poor country, just nobody deserves this. So
So we've got people on this call. I'd introduce you to Mark Kovach a couple days ago, and he's the guy that went on and filled out the form and did all that and says, I'm coming. So he's on here in the orange hat. There are other people that are like Mark that want to come and help. When I was on the ground in Poland and visiting so many different places, there are very few places for Americans to go and to actually be hands helping. We can dig in our pockets to help, but there's very few places that I saw where organizations could use Americans that don't speak Ukraine, Russian, or Polish, but they speak American, and they want to help. So if there are people like that, how do they help with their hands?
So a good example of that is in order. So some of the fighters that are out there, they need equipment, right? So we did a drive about a week ago where we had a bunch of people get some IFAKs or medical kits together and tourniquets, and go and get in a spot and receive all of those and get all the supplies and equipment. And then we provided a mailing address for that stuff to get shipped overseas, which is really helpful. We also, in order to move our operators back and forth and move those supplies that do make it over to Poland, which is where we do our all of our supplies and where the majority of the refugees are coming into. It is very helpful to have people out there to help with our logistical network that can come out and be in kind of the safe house that we have out there, or an additional safe house would be ideal. And they can be drivers, essentially move back and forth, be gophers to pick up people, be gophers to go out. And if they have medical experience, there are 1 million people, refugees now in Poland, that could use some assistance.
Absolutely.
There are these kids that we do rescue and bring them to the West. They are by no means prisoners over there. Ukraine's government will push them to borders sometimes. They just do it in a way that's more responsible. And so these same kids that we do rescue might find their way into Poland, and we're able to track that type of stuff so we can help them on that backside. And there's kits that need to be put together when we go into these rescues. We want to have, a fresh blanket and diapers, and we understand, there's might be formula that's needed for these orphans. This busload that's coming here in the next hour or so, there's some infants that are there too, so we make sure that there's some formula and milk ready for them. And one of the children had AIDS, and so there's all sorts of medicine and preparation that needs to be prepared for us to be effective when we go over, because we don't have time to put all this stuff together usually. But a logistical network that's in Poland that can put these packages together for us would be super helpful.
There's so much that can be done. You don't have to be a Green Beret to be effective.
Mm-hmm.
So
But if you're medically trained, that's super helpful.
Yeah.
And there's a form that people can fill out too, right? On the website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For the link to the volunteer corps is what we call it.
I'll start sending you this stuff, Eric.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Perfect. And I'll get it sent out. And again, this is going to get recorded. So Caleb, when we put this recording together, put some of the links in the video so we can, and if there's anything in here that you guys are like, oh, shouldn't have shared that, let us know, and we will just make sure it doesn't appear anywhere. Okay. So
Yeah.
hindsight, if there's anything like that. Does anybody have any questions? Or Brittany, I know that you were monitoring the chat, like I wasn't. So was there anything in there that you wanted to verbally answer? Or
The name of our partner, and because I've been talking all day, I can't remember.
Oh, New Horizons for
New
Children
Horizons. I knew it was New
is our
Horizons.
partner over there.
Yes.
And that's exactly the type of the Christian organization that does facilitate those fosters. So they do the foster care for these children. Right now, I will let you know that there's the sense of pride and unity inside of Ukraine is very strong. They have very strong resolve. And when you hear the president over there say that you're going to have to kill all of us because we will all fight you, I really sincerely believe that they will do that. They are not backing down. That we don't want to see that happen, of course, but it's just a very terrible situation over there. But with this partner with New Horizons, and what I'm getting at is the foster, and there's so many people that reach in and say, hey, we want to adopt. Like, I will adopt a child, Ukrainian child, like, send them here, send them to me. But because of that sense of pride, it's somehow kind of actually offensive to Ukrainians that it's like they've lost the war. Like, we're here to help and take our children because we don't believe in your ability to fight. So it's the idea of foster to them is better, to where, there's the capacity for people to take in all of your children temporarily, is really overflown. So we would love to just care for your Ukrainian children until you win the war, sort of feeling.
And I do
that's-
believe that
yeah.
orphans, they do want orphans to be adopted long-term, but they want it to go right. And everybody knows the adoption process is long because they want to check these families out. And so as of right now, they're asking for help with the right organizations to help with the fostering. But longer term, my hope, I always believe this way. I believe long-term, everything's a blessing. It can turn in that way. And I'm hoping that that this ends up being the best thing that ever happened to them, because some of the things and the kids that are meant to be adopted do get adopted through this. So that's our hope. But again, they don't want it to happen tomorrow, because they don't want to lose control of their children, who, even if they're orphans, they're precious to them. They just want to make sure it goes the right way. But I did put the slide up for contact
Mhm.
for those who are asking.
Oh, look, we got direct access to Britt. Oh, that's even better. She's wonderful. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? I know it's late at night. If we can let them go sooner than later, that would be great. I'm getting text messages from people that were on or could be on for a little bit. So just so you two know, like, I'm getting amazing text messages from friends of mine. They're like, I have to go. I don't want to go. And so I just want to thank you two for, just being willing and saying yes and going. People gave me so many compliments for going. And I look at that. I'm like, no, it's not that big of a deal that I'm going. I'm not in any dangerous situation. It's not in any big deal. Because I look at people like you and I'm like, that's where the amazing work is being done. I'm sure you look at other people that are like, that's where the amazing work is being done. One of my takeaways from all of this is we all have a part to play, whether it's $20, $100, $10,000. You're a bus driver that now gets to bus drive into, hot areas and actually, take kids out, or whatever it is. There's so many different ways to give. And the important thing is just to do your part at the time that is right for you to do whatever that part is. If it's going, if it's giving, if it's making connections, whatever it is, that's what I'm, one of my takeaways in all this. So I just want to thank you two for doing what you're doing, boots on the ground. It helps me. That's why I left Poland early, so I could come back and do these things, because I knew that I would be more effective by doing this and helping people like Mark and other people go and raising money, versus me going out and visiting another camp or another crossing, which was amazing. But I want to be in the place where I can be most effective. So I love what you guys are doing. Thank you for your time this evening. Any other questions, or if not, I'm going to let you two go. Hopefully you guys meet up with Mark Kovac. I could see him being a driver. So I think he's going to be there Friday. Good friend of mine. Last 2 years ago, Mark, I think we were mountain biking, and now you'll be out there doing what you can there. I can't wait to hear that report. But I don't think there are any other questions. Any last comments that you two would have, or anything that you would want to leave us with?
I think that just being Christians that we are, just please pray for this situation to stop sooner rather than later. And just, I always say, if you're passionate about something and you are direct conversations to these types of these situations awareness, if you're sitting down with some friends, or you're sitting down at dinner, like, start talking about this type of stuff and just keep the conversation going, and don't let it fade away, because what's happening to these children is tragic. And it needs to be talked about. It doesn't need to disappear. Pressure needs to be put on people to be able to do something about it, because what war does is war steals innocence, and these children don't deserve to lose their innocence at that age.
Go a little bit deeper into that, if you would, please, because you've been in war areas and you've seen it. Those of us that have not been in situations that you have, we have a little sense of that, but can you just go a bit deeper into like what war does and how it steals the innocence?
Well, you have to think of it, you everyone knows what a soldier with PTSD, or at least the stigma or the idea of a soldier with PTSD. And these are big, strong adult men that have signed up to do something, and what they've seen in war has broken them, has injured them, and hurt them so deeply. And these are full-grown adult men that are warriors, and the same stimulations, the same environment, the same things are happening around these children, and these children are witnessing that. So if it does that to an adult, imagine what it does to a child. So that's just, I just want people to be aware of that. It's there's not a place for a child.
Brittany, I think I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna say my last comments are, don't think that you are not making a difference in whichever way you decide to play your role. I tell everybody to, if they're praying people, pray for each disaster. Are you supposed to be a dreamer, the person that helps come up with the solutions and like activates other people into doing something? Are you the donor, because that's integral to making the project work? Or are you the doer? Are you called specifically to go get your hands dirty and get involved in this? And however you want to be involved, we'd love to give you access to doing that. And that's something that always bothered me when I wanted to help and people wouldn't let me in. And so we want to let you in on being able to help. We appreciate you, and all of it is worthy. All of it's enough, as long as you're doing something, as long as you're drawn to this too. If this is not your thing, don't feel like you have to do something. And it's amazing, it's worthy, but you need to stick to the thing that's right for you. And I just want to encourage you guys to do that, because it's a big deal. And we just appreciate everybody caring that we're out there doing that and taking the time to get on a Zoom call. And Erik, you leading this is just amazing. We're so grateful we met you, and we look forward to all the good we're going to do together.
That was well said. Well said. All right, you guys, go get some sleep or go do some other stuff. I'll be in touch with you guys. I'm going to stick around just for a couple minutes for any Q&A that you may have. See you guys. Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Mark, are you ready, buddy? Mark Kovac, are you ready? Oh, you got to take yourself off of mute. Maybe there you are.
My computer's down, but I think my phone's working. Can you hear me?
Buddy? It's working. Are you ready?
Yeah. You're making me nervous. I got to bring some more gloves. Yeah, no, I am ready. Looking forward to it. I just finished an email, penning it while we were on this call, and I'd like to send it to you and anybody else, the group that's on this call. My email address is first name, last name at Yahoo, Mark Kovac at Yahoo. And would like to follow your success, Erik, and making those connections and relationships and keep it moving. So yeah, I got a lot to do in the next 2 days, and I'm hitting the road.
You know, it's interesting. If any of you are thinking about going, there's lots of little things that need to happen. I sent both Jason and Mark, I said, you need to fill out this form. It took me an hour to do at the airport. And that's what caused me to the crazy times, but we got it filled out. And what I didn't know was the site tends to crash a lot. And it was definitely crashing when we were at the airport trying to check in. There's little things like that to like just having a good connection on where to get the rental car, to where to exchange funds, to like what's going on at the border and having some friendly faces or contacts when you're in country. And you don't want to do what I did. And Glenn is, get to bed at 3 a.m. one night because you figured the hotel situation wouldn't be nearly as bad as it was. So, there was a lot that I learned, and, you'll be able to have a smoother trip than I did, because of it. So, and Mark's just a normal guy like me that just wanted to go, and he just did it. So it'll be fun to kind of follow your journey, buddy.
It'll be great. Yeah. We've got all the local schools putting together little care baggies and notes for the children refugees, and I mean it's amazing to see the response that's coming from it.
That's a good point. One of the things that I realize is that I would be doing people a disservice to not allow them an opportunity to give, knowing like Mark doesn't need the money. I don't need, it's the last thing that we need. And it's more of a pain to try to have to give all the money away or put it in the right spots, because that's responsibility. But getting other people involved, getting my kids involved, and just allowing other people to follow along the journey with me, it was important, and it was really good. So it's really cool that you're able to, get more people involved in whatever aspect at whatever level.
That's right.
Um,
Learning from the best, Eric. Thanks.
well, we'll see how it is when you're there. And I also got some good places to eat. So you just let me know.
Oh, that's great.
All right, everyone, we're going to shut it down. So if you want, we'll probably do maybe more of these with different groups that I learn about. And Mark, you too, if you learn about groups like that you're like, hey, this is a good one to support and give to, let me know.
Yeah, we'll do. Great.
All right.
Thanks for putting this together. Have a great night.
You got it. Good to see your face again, Glenn. See you, everyone.